Kessler. I told you it would be a great fight. I just picked the wrong guy in this corner right now.
Coming up on In This Corner, it is one of the biggest fights in the history of Europe and one of the most anticipated fights of the year. It's Kessler, it's Calzaghe, all your highlights and more. Plus, we'll preview a big night at Madison Square Garden as Miguel Cotto meets Sugar Shane. There's all that and more on In This Corner with Russ Anber. Hi, everybody, and welcome to In This Corner. I'm Darren Detition, along with the coach, Russ Anber. We are glad that you tuned in. Well, Punchy, like you said right off the pop, you were a little wrong. Although I don't know how many people saw Joe Calzaghe winning this fight. A lot of people thought that Miguel Kessler was going to win, and that's exactly where we're going to begin.
He almost did.
He almost did. He had his moments. It really was one of the most anticipated fights to hit Europe in a long, long time. Yeah. When you take a look at Joe Calzaghe, though, for all of his 15 fights, he doesn't even look like a boxer. He looks like a Welsh Italian. There really is nothing menacing about this man. And because of his refusal to come across the pond, he has never fought in North America. A lot of people don't even know who he is. And that's because, and even though he's been a title holder for a decade, so it is somewhat surprising in that regard. Conversely, you've got Miguel Kessler, the Great Dane. This guy looks like a fighter. He's all tatted up. He comes in with a distinct punching power. These highlights are brought to you by the rally-inspired Mitsubishi Outlander. It's Kessler, it's Calzaghe, the Great Dane with a record of 39-0, 29 KOs in the red and white trunks, taking on the local hero, Joe Calzaghe, 43-0, 32 KOs in the black trunks. He's fighting in his backyard. They had some 50,000 people there, a lot of Welshmen cheering for Joe Calzaghe.
And right out of the gate, he wanted to surprise Kessler. He came right at him. He says, I'm not going to box this guy. Everyone thinks this guy's so dangerous. I'm going to take it right to him. And right from the outset, he goes pretty mumuch toe-to-toe with Calzaghe. And I'll tell you what, it was Kessler who was getting the better of the exchanges. I mean, Calzaghe stood there, and Kessler was able to load up with some good shots, and you could see that he's trying to break this guy down. Here we go into fourth round action, and this was a deciding round in the fight. Why? Because Kessler unloads with some hard shots. Watch the good right hand here, followed up by the left hook, and you know that Kessler was going to unload like this, and could Calzaghe take shots like this? Watch this, right underneath, bang, that nearly took his head off, but you know what? That became the turning point of the fight, because after that, Calzaghe said, you know what, I can't go toe-to-toe with this guy, and that's when he started using all the 10 years experience as champion, all the skills that he has, and his wonderful defense to start boxing Kessler, and that's exactly what he did. And when he did that, Kessler had no answer. Try as he may, he just wasn't able to unload or find the target against Calzaghe, who just kept boxing smart and throwing an abundance of punches. I mean, this guy just threw loads and loads of shots, Dutchie.
Yeah, Calzaghe was a little more active, and then you saw it in the latter rounds, too. He basically outboxed him. He outpointed him. He outscored him, and he took the fight to Kessler.
That's exactly what he did, and Kessler didn't have an answer for it. And now you'll see Kessler here late in the fight. He tries to get desperate, tries to go back to that uppercut, which was so successful for him in the fourth round, but he wasn't able to find the mark like he did. And again here, 12th round action, Kessler tried to the very end to take Calzaghe out, and Calzaghe, give credit to him, he's way ahead on the cards. He stays right in there with him and wants to close the show in front of his hometown crowd. So, I mean, this guy is a true 100% champion.
Right, these are the championship rounds, and at the age of 35, down the stretch, he was the more active fighter. He was the better of the two fighters. He wins a unanimous decision. Joe Calzaghe beats Miguel Kessler, and I think he hit the nail on the head there. In the fourth round, when Kessler stung him with that right uppercut, I mean, he really tagged him.
Twice, too. We showed one twice.
He did get him twice. Joe Calzaghe's got a beard. This guy can take a punch.
World-class chin, world-class heart.
But you know what won the fight, though? Smarts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Smarts. He decided, you know what, I can't do this, and it's true. It's like the old boxing adage, you can't hook with a hooker, you're not going to bang with a banger. Instead, he decided, you know what, I'm going to box him. And really, I think you hit the nail on the head. That was the TSN turning point.
It was the turning point. And I think the key thing you have to remember as well, Dutchie, in the fight is at the beginning, with all the hype, it looked like Calzaghe really wanted to surprise Kessler. Say, yeah, you're the big intimidating guy, I'm going to surprise you. But Kessler, that was perfect for him. The target was right in front of him. But
Bad strategy.
And, you know, we were sitting watching the fight, and you could see that if this keeps going, Kessler's going to break this guy down. You know, like he's landing. He's starting to find the mark. Each round, he's starting to land a little harder and harder. And he's a devastating puncher. Calzaghe proved what a chin he has, but you're right. It was the smarts. 10 years as champion. 10 years.
Right.
He took it all out for this moment right here against the best opponent he's fought in Mikel Kessler, a guy in his prime, a devastating puncher. This was a huge fight. Maybe the Calzaghe may have established himself as maybe the greatest super middleweight in history. I know Jones was champion as well. 10 years.
I think you have to take a look at.
Champion.
I know, but he stayed
something.
in his little pocket of the world.
Well,
though.
you said that earlier, that he refused to come out of there. Did it ever occur to you that maybe guys also didn't want to go over there?
No, it's true,
Watch
though.
the fight. Be judged for yourself.
But listen, if you're going to be the best, you've got to fight the best. And I don't know if he's necessarily done that. He certainly is on his way. He wants to fight Bernard Hopkins. He's calling him out. If you haven't seen this fight, folks, it is well worth it. You can watch it on
Tuesday,
TSN.
November 13th. Yeah.
That's right, Tuesday. The 13th. Okay, speaking of super middleweights, how about Lucien Bute? He announced earlier this week in Montreal that he'll make his first title defense on February the 29th. The bout will be at the Bell Center. The opponent still to be named.
So we need first to see who's fighting against who and who wins, and then wait. We have to wait for the new rating that will come out, and according to the new rating, then we'll pick the opponent. But the selected opponent will be, for sure, someone that will add something to Lucien Bute's progression, someone that could bring Lucien in a zone that he hasn't seen, or someone that will get him ready for the mega fight.
Yeah,
The mega fight.
The mega
what might
fight.
that be,
Hey,
eh?
listen, I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know who his opponent's going to be. I can tell you one guy it won't be. It's not going to be Mikel Kessler. Listen, Mikel Kessler wants a title. He wants his titles back.
Yeah.
He's going to want his belts. This show is around the world. Maybe he's sitting there in Denmark going,
Well, he might, but I don't think you make an optional defense and say, yeah, let me handpick somebody. I'll handpick Mikel Kessler. I don't think that's good. But Kessler, you know, if Calzaghe moves up to light heavyweight like he wants to do and fight Bernard Hopkins, those titles are then going to become vacant. And you can rest assured, and I don't care what you say, Mikel Kessler, Calzaghe leaves, Mikel Kessler reestablished himself as the premier super middleweight in the world.
Right, I know, but you know what? Some of the old marquee has been knocked off.
A little bit.
Mikel Kessler for me. Hey, listen. You know
and
what?
some has been added to Calzaghe.
Oh, 100%.
Huge,
I mean, Calzaghe goes up, Kessler goes down.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
All right, we have to take a short break, but still to come, there's plenty more on In This Corner. Juan Manuel Marquez, Rocky Juarez. We've got your highlights. You're watching In This Corner with Russ Anber. Welcome back to 19 KOs. The easiest way to tell them apart, Juarez is the one with the big tat on his back, and Juan Manuel Marquez is the one who's pressing the action in this fight.
The other way to tell him is one is throwing, the other one's eating all the punches. The one eating them is Marquez, the one throwing the one eating them is Juarez, the one throwing them is Marquez. And he just keeps firing. I mean, this guy just doesn't slow down. I mean, he throws and throws. And he got every punch in the book, underneath, over the top, right hands, left hook, stays behind the jab. I mean, no wonder he caused so much problems to Manny Pacquiao. They've got to make that fight because, I mean, Juan Manuel Marquez has to be, and is, not just has, but one of the best fighters in the world, any weight class. This guy can just go. He throws everything. He's got the heart of a champion. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And as far as Juarez is concerned, not only did
he's a gamer, Russ, and he was here. He stayed in this bout. He tried to. He took some big shots.
He did not win a minute of the round. He didn't win a minute of a round and stayed in there the whole time. But I'll tell you what, he shouldn't pay his cut man. That's what he definitely should.
We'll talk about that in just a moment or two because it really was tragic. Here you see Rocky Juarez. He gets cut in the early rounds, maybe even in the first round, and he bled the entire way throughout the fight.
This guy started to bleed when he was getting ready to come out for the next round. The blood started trickling down. I have never seen a more inept job of corner in my life. I mean, the corner man was taking regular Q-tips with no cotton on or anything, trying to stuff it into a wound this big, and then trying to pinch it with his fingers. I mean, they didn't use a towel. They didn't use gauze. They did nothing. The guy was bled for 12 rounds. It was awful, awful. It's a disgrace to the profession.
This is bad ringmanship, too, in the corner when He comes out for the next round, and he's standing there, and it already starts to bleed. He hadn't even been tagged in the fight.
No,
but what about Manny Pacquiao, though? Is it a fait accompli? They're going to make this fight Juan Manuel Marquez,
you know what?
Manny?
I don't know that it's a fait accompli. To me, it's far from a fait accompli. It should be made. That's the fight that needs to be made.
But they're going to, though. Manny's talked about it. There's been speculation that Juan Manuel...
They've also talked about Manny Pacquiao moving to, because he can't make 130. He's dying to make 130. He can't do it anymore. They're talking about him moving up to fight the baby bull Juan Diaz at 135. That's the fight Diaz is calling out for. And now Dan Rafael and Larry Merchant have put out a thing where there's a possibility thinking of making a mega fight. Now, don't jump all over me. I'm only the messenger on this one about Pacquiao fighting De La Hoya.
What?
That's exactly what I said.
Really?
What? And
no,
and like Rafael says, don't think this is as crazy as it sounds. So let's see. I don't know what's happening, but I want to see Juan Manuel Marquez.
I think in a perfect world, I think that Oscar De La Hoya ends up fighting Miguel Cotto. If Miguel Cotto gets past Sugar Shane Mosley, I think that's a bigger fight, pays him a little bit more. We'll have more on that fight a little later on. Now, on the undercard of the Calzaghe-Kessler fight, WBO Cruiserweight champion Enzo Maccarinelli retained his title. A perfect body shot gave him a fourth-round knockout over the previously unbeaten Mohamed Azawi. Now, junior middleweight Saul Roman won a shock split decision over former IBF champ Kasim Uma on Friday night. Roman took the fight to the normally aggressive Uma. He won on 2 of the 3 cards. Undefeated heavyweight Eddie Chambers won a 12-round split decision over Calvin Braca on Friday night.
But that's okay. You know, that's new life in the division. That's great.
I know it is good, but Calvin Braca, so much was expected from this guy, and he has given us basically nothing. Chambers will now face Alexander Povetkin for the right to meet champion Vladimir Klitschko. Also on Friday, number 4 WBA super bantamweight contender Julio Zarate got off the canvas to score a 4th-round TKO over a very game opponent in Vernie Torres. How about this? The Contender Finale, Russ. And it turned out to be a great fight. 2-time world title challenger Sakio Bika taking on Jadron Codrington. And this fight was crazy.
I mean, this is already imagine on the Contender, it's going to be a qualifier for Fight of the Year honors. Watch this. Bika goes down, and we're still in the first round. And now look at this, though. These were the shots that started to land, and this is reminiscent of Jaden Codrington's fight when he got stopped early in 20 seconds of the first round. Again, ready to go here. Sid Flaherty watching closely. Sakio Bika looking to take him out, and it's all over, Dutchie.
No, this fight was ridiculous. The end finally came in the 8th round. Bika wins the Contender.
And former heavyweight title holder Nikolai Valuev and Sergey Lahovich will meet an early 208 in an elimination bout to produce the mandatory challenger for WBA champion Ruslan Chagayev. Valuev's German promoter won a purse bid on Monday with an offer of $670,000. Valuev made 3 successful title defenses before losing his belt on a majority decision to Chagayev. Lahovich hasn't fought in over a year since losing his title in a stunning loss to Shannon Briggs.
You know, there was a vocal spectator during Edison Miranda's 5th-round stoppage of Henry Porras last week. It was Canada's own unbeaten super middleweight contender Jean Pascal who made a point of calling out Miranda from ringside in the ring after the bout. Miranda returned to Puerto Rico on Wednesday to watch WBO's Tournament of Champions. To his surprise, guess who was there? Jean Pascal. He was in the audience. Pascal started yapping at him again. Apparently the 2 guys got in each other's face. And hopefully that's a fight we're going to see in the very near future.
And finally, IBF purse bid for the IBF junior middleweight mandatory fight between Corey Spinks and Vernal Phillips was canceled. Both sides agreed that Don King Productions would promote the fight, which goes January 19, 2008 at the Mecca, Madison Square Garden. And don't forget, Dutchie, also Jean-Marc Mormick and David Hay fight this Saturday, WBA and WBC titles on the line in the cruiserweight division, and that's a huge, big fight. You remember Mormick beat O'Neal Bell, Dale Brown, etc.
I like Jean-Marc Mormick, the way he throws. He throws with some intent. That guy can throw bombs. What about Jean Pascal, though? He's running around chasing Edison Miranda. Miranda's a pretty tough guy, though. Maybe you be careful what you wish for, or can he, or is this a...
Jean knows what he's doing. He told me he was going to go to the convention. He told me he was going to go down there, get in the ring, and challenge Miranda. He did everything he said he was going to do. They took their shirts off, the bowl. Miranda said, this guy's crazy. Yeah, let's see who's crazy. We'll see.
Well, you're crazy. You need a standing 8 count, my friend.
Yeah.
You need to settle down. It's going to be a new segment that we've got on the show. We're going to feature it from week to week, so it'll pertain to a variety of topics. We'll come up, say, for example, Miguel Cotto ends up winning his fight. We'll say, who's the top 8 Puerto Rican fighters of all time? Perfect. So that's sort of the scenario. When we come back, Oh, we're going to get you set for what's going to be a great bout. Look at Sugar Shane. He's ready for it. Miguel Cotto's a warrior. They're going to meet in Madison Square Garden. We'll preview the fight. We'll talk about it in seconds. Welcome back to the show. You know, they say that all great fighters have a defining moment. Miguel Cotto is hoping that his comes this Saturday night. He's going to put his WBA title on the line against Sugar Shane Mosley, who already has established his own legacy with 2 wins over Oscar De La Hoya. With a preview, here's Russ.
It was Puerto Rican Day in New York, and Miguel Cotto drew over 20,000 at Madison Square Garden for his win over Zab Judah, the largest crowd the boxing Mecca has seen in years, as he pounded the former undisputed champ into submission. This time, he steps up against one of the best of his generation in Sugar Shane Mosley, a former 3-division title holder and current WBC interim champion. Far from being a stepping stone, Mosley has only ever lost to 2 men, Vernon Forrest and Winky Wright, in 44 professional fights, and is best known for his 2 wins over fellow Golden Boy Promotions owner Oscar De La Hoya. Mosley, at 36 years of age, shows no signs of slowing down and is coming off 2 stoppages of Fernando Vargas and a one-sided drubbing of Luis Collazo. Speed has always been Mosley's game, and the move back down to 147 has seen him return to a more natural weight, where he can showcase his abilities and be alongside the other elite names in the sport. But now Mosley is forced to try and beat back the challenge of somebody 9 years his junior. Miguel Cotto seems to be gaining momentum with each and every victory, and he is now a perfect 30-0. Cotto is a former Olympian, having competed in the 2000 Sydney Games, and has moved up in weight since turning pro. Cotto captured the light welterweight crown in 2004 and held it for 2 years, making 5 successful defenses before moving up to 147 pounds and winning a title there. Saturday, we'll see whether Mosley still has that speed to stop a puncher like Cotto. And if speed doesn't do it, experience just might. Question marks remain when it comes to the Puerto Rican, who got off to a slow start versus Judah, was wobbled by Chop Chop Corley, and knocked down by Ricardo Torres. It's all part of the learning curve for Cotto, and with the win over Sugar Shane this weekend, that curve will still be going up.
I tell you, I can't wait for this fight because you know I love Miguel Cotto.
Sure. Well, how can you not like him?
And Sugar Shane's been on this show many times before.
Pure gentleman.
He really is a nice man.
Absolutely.
But I think this is real tough for Cotto because Sugar Shane, his hand speed...
It's tough for both.
Well, yeah, I know, but I understand.
Both.
But you can understand where Sugar Shane has been. This is a big fight for him, but this is an even bigger fight for Cotto. It could establish him as a superstar in the sport. It's going to be in Madison Square Garden. You're going to have all the Puerto Ricans there. They're going to be cheering for him.
There's no doubt that this is a huge fight, but I think...
But stylistically, isn't this a problem, though, for Cotto?
It's a problem, and that's why I think I'm going to revert back to the Kessler-Calzaghe fight of last weekend in making my pick, and I think I'm going to go with the speed of a Sugar Shane Mosley over the power of a Miguel Cotto. And I know that, you know, power is the great equalizer, but speed kills, bro.
Right, but can he break him down? Can he? Because Miguel Cotto loves to tear people apart by going to the body.
Tough man.
Don't be
fooled by that pretty nice-looking guy.
Hey, listen, I know
nice smile. This guy's pure man.
Right. Okay. Is Cotto going to be able to impose his will upon him like he did against Zab Judah? Can he cut the ring down on this guy? Because you know what? Judah wanted to stay in there and bang with him, and Cotto eventually ripped him apart. But Cotto, we've seen him get knocked down.
I just hope Cotto doesn't start throwing illegal shots, any low blows like he did against Zab Judah. Go ahead.
I doubt if he probably will.
Let's see.
Yeah, you never know, though. It is the countdown to Cotto and Mosley. I've seen this show. If you have not seen it, you know what? It really is great. It previews their upcoming fight. It takes you to the respective camps. Coming up next, it's our final flurry. It is your daily dose, Monday through Friday, the sweet science, 5 days a week. It is boxing on ESPN Classic. Russ's Final Flurry is brought to you by Dodge Caliber. Grab life by the horns. I'll tell you what, though, it's my favorite part of the show, and this is a great question. It comes from Maurice.
Before you ask me, are you going to get upset if I get mad at you or yell at you? Are you going to be upset when I answer a question that doesn't go your way?
Listen, this comes from Maurice. Some people call him Maurice. Some people call him the Space Cowboy. I like this question, Maurice. It says, I can't help but compare pretty boy Floyd Mayweather with Ricky Hatton, with Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran. While Mayweather isn't as offensive as Leonard, I believe it's a good comparison. I like it. Do you?
Okay, I'll start off with this one. Yeah, it's a good comparison. Mayweather ain't Ray Leonard. I'll tell you that right now.
He acknowledges that.
And Ricky Hatton certainly
wasn't Roberto Duran.
But in terms of the stylistic matchup of the fight, I think there's a lot of great similarities, and I think that the one thing that Hatton and Duran do have in common is they're both able to use their head on the inside. You can ask Ray Leonard if Duran was knocking that head around in there, which Hatton does the same thing. So I think the matchup is great, and I think there's a lot of similarities there. You're right. It's a good question.
John from Calgary says, I just wanted to hear your take on Ricky Hatton. What is the ref going to allow? What's he going to cut down on? What's this guy going to be able to get away with?
You know what? This is going to be very, very delicate. I mean, being someone in the game, I know when a fighter is intentionally trying to foul or do things to foul the opponent. But Hatton does it sometimes on such a borderline, like the way he grabs you, the way he makes it look somewhat accidental. It's going to take a good referee who I hope is strict and does not let Hatton get away with illegal tactics, if you will. Let the better man win.
Right, and Pretty Boy Floyd says if it gets nasty, he'll get nasty too.
And he might very well.
And you know what? I don't want to see another
Me
Zab
either. We
Judah,
don't know. We don't want to see
Yoel Judah. Ed Ludwig in
agree.
Burnaby, BC, got a good question here. He says, I never liked the technical decision rule for an accidental headbutt after 4 rounds. He goes, I think a non-contest or no contest is more appropriate. Is there a particular rule out there that if you could change or eliminate, you would?
Well, the one thing, that is one rule that I don't like. I don't like that in a 12-round fight, the fight suddenly becomes legal after 4 rounds and you go to the cards. I mean, you've only completed a third of the fight and you already want to go to the cards.
If we went 4 rounds, Mikhail Kessler's the champ right now.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and I don't know that's quite right. And what I would say, Ed, and I think if we kept this in, I would say at least you've got to have at least half of the fight or the majority of the fight completed before you go to the cards, and anything before that would determine a technical draw. So that's one thing that I would change. I never did like it that you go to the cards after only 4 rounds. You're still at the beginning of the fight.
Anthony says, let's assume for a moment that Pacquiao ends up fighting Juan Manuel Marquez. Pacquiao ends up winning that fight. Could he step into the ring against the baby bull? I mean, that might be biting off a little more than he could handle.
But would that not be a fight you'd want to see?
That would be great. I would love to see that fight.
What's the point? That's exactly what you want to see, because I'll tell you what, Pacquiao has been, you know, throughout his career from featherweight on up, you know, he's been in the divisions where you throw a lot of punches. The lightweights don't usually throw as many punches as Baby Bull throws, so that would be a great fight.
Bing, bing. That's it. We had some great questions.
It's okay. Don't worry. Tell them I'll answer them.
Yeah, you can answer. Russ will answer all your emails on Final Flurry. If we don't do it during the course of the show, Russ will do it on his new blog on tsn.ca. It's called Between Rounds with Russ Anber. Somebody writes it for him. Don't know who it is. Next episode, make a note of it. Tuesday, November the 13th, 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:30 p.m. Pacific Time. We'll see you, folks.
Russ Anber's Clothing by Pellegrino Castronovo.